Roads? It's the Ernest Hancock Show. Where we're going, there aren't any roads.
Yeah, crack that whip. You know, I want to be whipped as opposed to, whatever else they can scare me with. Anything but the whip. Anything? The whip. The whip. Year after year after year after election, man. Here we go. Give us the whip. So we're in a different era right now because we're post-Lovolution of 4 years ago. This is what I wanted to do, Karen. I wanted to make sure that we were able to really dissect and understand what happened 4 years ago with the Lovolution, just the people out there expressing themselves, whip butt and exposed, and just like you said, man, the Federal Reserve was not even in a glimmer in anybody's eye back then. Now it's all of a sudden it's front and center. Yeah, we win. That is it right there. We win. Thank you very much. Already done.
Yeah.
Well,
that is true.
But now, the thing is that we're going through a much more traditional phase. The campaign wants to, we're going to play the game of the straw poll. We're going to, focus on activists taking over the internal workings of the Republican Party. We're going to be, and we kind of, we don't want to, we don't want to get kind of, too nasty out there and make it mad all the people that are in control of. And I'm wondering how that's working and what should we look for to see which is the better method. So what are you experiencing there?
Well, we're okay. I'll tell you this. We're actually in this campaign that we have here in 6th District. We're doing both. We are trying to educate and we're trying to articulate for a lot of people. And I really don't care if they want to vote for me, but I do want them to hear some interesting and alternative arguments. And many of these arguments, what we're finding, resonate with them. They go, well, nobody ever said that, but that's actually what I thought. Thank you for saying that. And so we are doing an educational campaign. Now, we are also fighting as hard as we can, and we're going to continue to fight. We're fighting clean right now, and we'll probably fight dirty because, politics is a dirty game. So we're going to do everything we can to beat this incumbent in his own party with a deck stacked against us. That's what we're going to do, okay? And that's the political game. And then people say, well, what are you going to do? Well, if we win, and we're going to do everything we can to win, we're going to go up to Congress, be a part of the Liberty Caucus. We're going to vote with the Constitution, no on spending. We're going to articulate and fight and educate the same as we're doing now. We're going to do it at a higher level. And that would be all nice. That would be very, very nice. But let me tell you, it's the education part, just as it was for Ron Paul 4 years ago. It's the education part that matters. Because you know what? It doesn't matter if you vote or don't vote. If you understand how the Federal Reserve works, okay, you understand a great deal about how our country works, okay? So now it doesn't matter who you vote for and if they're telling the truth or if they're lying to you, like Obama or Perry or any of these other guys. It doesn't matter because you are armed with information that can help prepare and protect yourself, okay? So you talked earlier about the gold and the price of gold and how it changed. It's the price of gold just to measure the worthlessness of the dollar, okay? And the dollar's pretty worthless. But you know what? 4, 5, 10 years ago, people, they didn't think about that. But now we all know what the price of gold indicates. We now have a sign on how lousy sick our federal government is, okay? And so we can act accordingly. We can take care of ourselves. We can do our investments the way we want to. We can gather the skills that we want to. We can create the networks that we want to.
I want to get some of your...
if we want to. And if we're prepared to do that, that education is how you actually change a country.
Okay, now part of this education comes from a background that you have that's unique, and I'm wondering how this enters into this race. So give me, your job in the Pentagon that you are doing. It gives you what kind of a bird's eye view on what's happening right now in foreign policy?
Well, okay, first off, there's a joke that if a politician's lips are moving, he's not telling the truth, he's lying. How do you know if he's lying? His lips are moving, right? Mm-hmm. But that's a joke. Most people don't believe that. My own experience tells me that is absolutely the true case. So when I hear news out of Washington on, let's say, Libya, I immediately don't believe it. And if I'm interested in it, which I may or may not be interested in it, but if I am, I'm immediately going to go to alternative sources and start finding out what the real story is. Okay, that's how it changed me. It turned me into a citizen, much like the citizens in the Soviet Union when they saw things on Pravda and TASS, and they watched the talking heads on Soviet state television. they knew that whatever those guys were saying was hiding and obfuscating and possibly even the direct opposite of what the truth was, and they knew if it was being talked about by the government, you better get smart on what the opposite was, because there was something being hidden and the information was out there. That's how the Soviets operated. They understood very well when they were being lied to, and they had alternative sources of information, and ultimately they had a peaceful, not a revolution necessarily, but a peaceful collapse of that state system.
Having been an activist for a long time, since '88, we spent almost all of our time just trying to convince people that there was a problem. Now we don't have to do that anymore.
You're right.
So we're in a situation. Yeah. No. So the solution is what? I mean, we get back in there. You start having a say, and one. Dr. Paul's either going to be president or he's going to be home in Texas, and I'm wondering, how we're going to undo this enormous debt that we have.
Oh, we're not going to undo the debt. I tell people that already on my speeches. That debt's not going to be paid back. Can't be paid back. It's going to be written down. We are going to probably go to war with some of the people that we owe money to in order to write that debt off fully, 100%, and not write it down. We're going to inflate it away, and we're going to discount through inflation and also through outright denial payment of this debt to our domestic citizens. Okay? But that's not going to be paid. It's not going to be paid. I mean, this whole thing about, how are we going to pay the debt? Yeah, I don't like debt spending, but I don't like it because it's an outright criminal act. That's why I don't like it, because they have no intention of paying it back. Okay? It's based on lies, and it's worse than theft. It's counterfeit, fraud, and theft all put together. So, we're not going to pay the debt back. Okay? What I would work hard, I mean, I would imagine, and I would think other people would do this as well in Congress, to not just stop the borrowing and stop the spending, but to immediately begin to renegotiate that debt. And you know what? That's going to tear up our credit rating. And they were crying about one little half step down to AA+. They're all worried about, they're investigating Moody's because the government's upset that they got downgraded. It should be D- in this country. And it would be, and it will be, when we start inflating away, potentially hyperinflation, and also renegotiating the debt, and possibly getting into wars, or cold wars and conflicts that will allow us to have top cover for us to repudiate the debt.
Well, let's talk about your perspective in your job at the Pentagon, and we're having fifth-generation stealth fighters coming out of the the Russian government. Mm-hmm. We have aircraft carriers from old Russian aircraft carriers China's got. We got Hillary going to China. What do you need an aircraft carrier for? It's like, he starts laughing before she even finishes the sentence.
Yeah, then it should be.
So all this stuff that's going on, and then, of course, China's going to resources in Africa. We open up Africa Con. We got North Con, here. We have
a sign of a fading empire. It's an empire that's very desperate. And that's what I was mentioning before, and this is not part of my campaign. The part about the government being very frightened of us and frightened of the situation that it's in. But our government is an extremely dangerous government. The people around the world for many years have known how dangerous our government is. I mean, we interfere with almost every other country's political situation. All those colored revolutions in Georgia and some of the other places. Much of this activity is coming out of U.S. government, funding and supporting, manipulating, attempting to change outcomes. So the whole world's scared of our government, but Americans have not been, okay? And now what's changing is not only, like you said, they know there's a problem, but we're actually pinpointing what the real issue is. Our government is frightened of us, and it's very, very powerful. It can do many, many things. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm reading this morning a new FDA rule. They can shut any farmer down just based on an order now. Some executive order put people out of business because they're selling food that they don't like.
As I'm meeting with officers this morning, I was just going, they were talking about something. I said, yeah, no, of course, I know I'm on the list. Heck, it's just safer to be on top of the list if you're going to be on the list, And
probably so.
And I was just going, my biggest disappointment would be sometimes somebody do a FOIA request on me and I'm not on the list. I'd be all disappointed, So you start to see, you have to start thinking that way and acting that way and knowing, and it's getting to the point to where these guys that I've known personally for decades in government, in legislature, Congress, law enforcement, all these different levels of government, and they're like, it's going to come to a point where they don't care, and they're going to go after people that they know not to be violent. And I'm glad you're out there, Karen. Karen Kwiatkowski is out there running for Congress from a history of being inside the Pentagon, understanding that people lie, supporting Dr. Paul, supporting the people that want to express their support for Dr. Paul and for her in Virginia. Go ahead and give out a website. They can go and get some contact information on your campaign.
We have a Facebook page, Karen Kwiatkowski for President, and we have a website, Karen K for Congress. For President. What am I saying? Crazy stuff. For Congress. KarenKforCongress.com is the website. If you have Facebook, it's Karen Kwiatkowski for Congress. You can easily find there's a fan page there. And anyway, we encourage you to sign up, and we send out our activities, our speeches, our whatever we're doing is all on there.
Thanks, Karen. We'll be right back. Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. Readers of freedomsphoenix.com are constantly provided the information that detail the real news between the lines of propaganda about government policies and the true relationship we all have with coercive governments. Learn the true condition of our economy, innovations and technological breakthroughs in energy, health, computer science, and space travel. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media, the media that is so last century. Corporate media has evolved into nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but we now have a fantastic alternative. FreedomsPhoenix.com provides constant news updates on the issues that affect our lives in the most important ways. Our liberty and our property are under constant attack, and FreedomsPhoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda while encouraging the participation of our readers. Join us at FreedomsPhoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. FreedomsPhoenix.com, where the revolution between the ears has already matured.